have a good turnout for you, Robert, I promise. Without a whole lot of introduction, I'm going to get David up here. I don't think he really needs a big introduction. He's pretty well known in the area. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Which way you want to go?
We'll dance.
Thank you all for being here. You could have been anywhere else in the world today, especially Panama City, and you chose not to be. My secretary Pat was there last week, and she said it was a private beach. And then she called one of her friends and said it's an hour delay on Saturday getting into Panama City. So it's that many more people from a private beach to those type things. I have to confess that my first girlfriend was Deanna's mother. My dad couldn't remember any of the Morgan girls' names, so he just called them all the Morgan girls. But Yvonne's mother was the prettiest girl in Mount Zion Church, so I chose her to be my girlfriend, even though she's probably, 4 years older than me, three or four. You know, you just pick the prettiest one out. That's your girlfriend. So I've been.
Well, she knew it or not, right?
No, she didn't know it. She didn't know it at all. But she was one of the prettiest girls, and of course, Deanna is also. It's a privilege to be here. I don't care if I'm speaking to one person. It really doesn't matter. A lot's going on in Paulding County. We got to hear Brian Kemp come and speak at a breakfast chamber meeting not long ago, and he blew me away with some statistics. And one of those was that the state of Georgia is now the 8th largest state in the union. So that's pretty amazing. And if you paid any attention to elections and you saw the thing Eric Erickson had with the red state, they drew a big number. And the guy's got a lot of gall. He just invited Donald Trump, so he's a pretty amazing person. We're the 14th most populated county in the state, and we're the 8th largest state. So you can imagine if we get great voter turnout, how Paulding County could choose your next governor, your next senator. We would have that kind of clout. The reason I know that is we warranted two visits by Governor Deal. When he was out on the campaign trail, he came through Dallas one time, he came here one time. And Senator David Perdue did the same thing. So it lets you know they're paying attention to where they think people are located. And getting the people to turn out for elections will absolutely help decide state and maybe national elections. Another important statistics for Northwest Georgia, the unemployment rate came out today, and Paulding is the lowest in Northwest Georgia. It's we have 15 counties and 49 cities in Northwest Georgia Regional Commission, and we have the lowest unemployment in that whole area at 5.1%. So I'm pretty proud of that. Unfortunately, 75% of the folks leave every day to go outside the county to work, which brings in probably one of the best median incomes in all of Northwest Georgia. Only Pickens County beats us out by $2,000. Our median income, and this is 2013 numbers. I couldn't get newer numbers for you, because they're always a year later, and at the end of this month, or 1st of October, they will come out with 2014 numbers. So they're slow to bring those out. I don't know why, but I even look for that to improve that much more. But know that you have the best median income in Northwest Georgia, and you have the lowest unemployment. So all we're trying to do is create an atmosphere. Robert's been a fantastic person to bring into our county, and he did a lot for Douglas County and a lot for the state of Georgia. So, Robert, I'm looking forward to what you can do. It's all on your shoulders.
No problem.
As we begin to look back a little bit and look forward, we look at Paulding Wellstar. They finished the hospital, and the day they finished and moved in, we were full. Had a friend of mine that called me, and his mom was admitted within that first week, and they said it's going to be a while. She's going to have them in a temporary area because we just don't have any beds. And he called me and said, they're lying. They can't be true. And he used other language. And I said, no, they were full on day one. So the Wellstar Board of Trustees, which is made up of a couple of folks in Paulding and Douglas, Cobb General, and Kempstone, have decided to put the money to finish out the top 2 floors. It's not an easy decision because it's about $1 million a floor when they decide to do that. So this comes from the operating income within Paulding. And as you know, they sell rooms, you can do dedications, there's various things that you can do. I think the Hardy family named the entire atrium area, but if you're interested, that's a good cause. And they've done so many great things. They have a cath lab that was named after Dr. Sachs. We brought the Metro Ambulance Company approximately 2 years ago, and they came in with some of the finest equipment in the world, Mercedes ambulances, and then they have a cardio that ties into the cardio lab at Paulding. And if they've got those statistics on you, you can bypass the emergency room and save maybe 30 minutes if you're a heart patient. So that's life and death type thing. So I'm very, very proud of what they're doing there. On the Silver Comet Trail, we're working to make improvements. You probably heard about an incident a little over a year ago where a lady was accosted. We think that was a family issue. Since that time, they've gotten a divorce, and she's back out in the Midwest. So we won't get all the details on there, but what it did was brought our attention to this is the #1 tourist attraction, bringing at least 1 million people a year into Paulding on that trail. So we had to have at least our part to be the safest that it can be. So our current Board of Commissioners voted to spend money on high-end IT cameras, and they can be viewed from a couple of locations. One is right there in the courthouse where all the sheriffs sit as they check you in, and the other's in the Marshal's Bureau that's in my building. A lot of people complain about coming into our building and having to go through the machines, but our legislature passed a law that said that you can bring a gun unless you are prohibited from doing that, but state legislation. So there was a huge demand by Bill Watson up in the tax department. There's Bill and I'd have to guess the number 25 women, and people get upset about a lot of things. They get upset about schools and how their children are treated, and then when they come to pay their taxes, they're not in the best mood, and they just demanded. Back before the new courthouse was done, there was security in the old annex. If you remember, everybody had to go through that to go pay your taxes and those type of things. So when I got elected and came into office, we for a while did away with security just because we couldn't afford it. And we didn't have the law passed that says that you can bring a gun in. So that's caused a little bit of controversy, but again, it's safety for people, and that's what we're concerned about. So especially in that area. But you'll see the Silver Comet Trail tie into Veterans Park. There's an effort out on 278 for the walking trail to tie over to Silver Comet, then tie into Veterans Park, and then Veterans Park be tied into City of Dallas. So you can have a means of getting into the city to grab a bite of lunch or dinner. You probably are familiar that we're working on one of our largest projects, the Bill Caruth Parkway widening. That's quite a task when you have to pass over a railroad. I understand that the hierarchy of that is the railroad, God, and then Jesus Christ. So, and I always thought, well, this is about safety. You know, we're making your railroad safer, and they go, we don't care if you cross over our railroad or not. This is our railroad. So back in the day when all that got started, they had some privileges, and they continue to this day. But you'll see Bill Carruth widening. We're a little bit behind. And part of the reason we're behind is work schedule. If you know where I'm talking about, where the old water system building used to be, from that area right there over, I believe the first road is Hiram City. There's a big hill you climb, and the state DOT says we got to take that hill down. And so you have to have a time frame for buses and those type of things. So we tried to reach the fall break, and they didn't hit that one. So we're looking for a time frame where we can close those roads off and bring the level of that road down. So it's no easy task, and working with the state makes it twice as difficult. We're fortunate to have Scott Green. Scott was with the state for 11, 12, 13 years, and he understands how they operate. They give him pretty much free hand at running their projects because he's run others and they like the way he does it. So that will eventually tie in for a complete 4-lane highway for Bill Carruth Parkway all the way around Hiram, which I understand is one of our heaviest travel roads in the county outside the state routes. We have bid and started Union Park. This is probably one of our last planned parks, and it will be coming online probably approximately a year from now. Passive park with a lot of walking space. We've even added garden space there, so if you're over in Cobb and you head to the avenues, most of y'all know where I'm talking about with the avenues. Right before you get there on Dallas Highway, if you look to the left, there's a giant home there, and that's a park area that they have, and those are garden plots. And so Commissioner Mike Pope, former commissioner, said he will help set all those up and grade them off and help us with that. So it'll help people, especially when you get into some of the people that like to garden that maybe live in apartments or don't have that kind of space. It'll be advantageous. And then I think it'll be something that we'll have the master gardeners participate in and be a part of. The Georgia State Patrol, I just came from there a few minutes ago, just a few minutes being late getting here. They have their new sign up, and it's over on Bill Carruth Parkway. And it's quite exciting to have at least a dozen new officers that will actually be operating out of our county. When we had the opportunity to do this, Charlie Watts called me and he said, would you like a state patrol post in the county? And I said, oh yeah. I said, let's meet. So we called Gary Gullidge in, the sheriff, and we talked about it, and we said, well, you know, how do you go about spending this money? Do you give the money you spend on the state patrol post to the sheriff to give raises out, and that doesn't really do anything new for public safety, or do you build them a building, which the water system need to make a change anyway? So we worked out a trade there, and they said, we'll come in the building, we've got to have some barracks, we've got to have a few things done here differently. And you give them that facility, and then what they give you back is, of course, all the computers, all the state patrolmen, all the people with their ammunition and their guns and those type of things to protect Paulding. Now, I probably will be the first one to get a ticket and be mad about it, but you know, just their presence alone will, I think, help improve public safety, and Gary was 100% behind doing that. So you will be asked to participate in a ribbon cutting here soon. They're moving in this week, but they'd like to have their sod down. There's a lot of improvements on the outside they want to do and get adjusted, so when you come in, you actually see it working state patrol post. We were the largest populated county in the state without a state patrol post. Hand in hand with that goes the driver services. And immediately upon getting that approved, the state patrol said, you know, do you hate going to Villarica or hate going to, I believe we have to go all the way to Cedar County or Marietta, and you're in a long line over there. But again, the largest populated county without a DDS. When I was growing up, DDS was part of state patrol, but now they're their whole different unit. So looking at this, it made a lot of sense. And if you travel up to the government complex and you go to the left of the courthouse, behind the courthouse is the DDS. So what we'll be looking to do there is to build a road all the way through from 278 straight back through to Business 6. Along with that, that building will be coming in, and the state, of course, does this. All we had to do is give them the ground. And what I didn't want to do is give the state our out front property and those type things. So that spurred interest in CDL, commercial driver's license. And so now we're working on that. There's a $500,000 grant from the state. There's about that much in federal to have CDL licensing. So if we're able to build that road through, and we've been meeting with Joe Watson, who owns the balance of the Watson complex behind us, I think we'll be able to pull that off and have CDL licensing. Chattahoochee Tech already teaches to that effect. I saw a guy behind the student driver the other day behind the 18-wheeler. So they're doing a magnificent job of teaching to that, and I understand that there are jobs waiting on people for long-distance drivers. So a gentleman that owns a trucking company in Marietta called me and said, "Are you really going to have licensing?" And I said, "Yes, sir, it looks like we are. We've got some things to do and some property to buy and those type of things, but it looks like," he said, "do you realize that it would save us 4 to 6 hours a day, because where they have to go is at least that far away." Dawson County may be the closest facility that we have, or you can go into below Atlanta. But when you have a student driver, you have to have the person that's teaching the driving school to drive them down and be with them to deliver that truck for them to be tested. And so we're probably the area, if you look at Georgia, that's missing that CDL. Wayman Henry is a great guy. He builds the facilities, and he retired a few years ago, and they realized they couldn't live without him, so they brought him back. And when he came to see me a week or so ago, he said there's $500,000. It's either going to come to Paulding or it's going to go to Columbus. And he said, he lives up and coming. I don't want to go to Columbus. He said, I can get back and forth here in a couple of hours, and I'd rather spend the money in Paulding. So we got an excellent opportunity to have CDL licensing. Just got to participate in Georgia Highlands inauguration. You'll probably see this. Jody's contacting them now to get the footage. That's one of the neat things about being chairman. You get to be invited to some neat events. And I've never been to an inauguration of a president, but Georgia Highlands College inaugurated Dr. Donald Green. And boy, I'm telling you, it was really some great festivities. I was asked to speak on behalf of Northwest Georgia Regional Commission, so it was just a good day. So it'll be interesting to watch that event on TV. Their enrollment in Paulding County is up 17%. So there's even people in there my age is going back for re-education and retraining, and there's a lot of money that's available in Hope Scholarship. I serve on the Hope Scholarship board with a bunch of fine other people. I don't know why they chose me to be on there, but it is amazing what we're doing with the Hope Scholarship. And now Zell Miller, if you're the brightest, there's even the Zell Miller Scholarship, which is even that much more money that's available to our brightest and best. What we did with that was said, if we're going to give you the money, then we're going to ask you to stay here for a period of time and work. So you don't pay the money back, but your contribution is you don't leave the state. So that Zell Miller Scholarship is helping us retain great, bright students here. And lastly, the airport. And people think I spend all my time, I probably spend 0.5% working on the airport. But they tell me we're within 30 days of public comment for the environmental assessment. After the 30-day time frame, there's 30 days where they receive public comment, and then the FAA will award an environmental assessment to you, and then that is called the 139. And so that allows you to do commercial flights. When you get that 139, then we go from receiving, when you pay a ticket to go on an airline, there's a fee on top of the cost of the ticket. And that fee helps airports all over the U.S. And so then we would start receiving and become less dependent on the county because it's somewhere close to $1.5 million a year, whereas right now from the FAA we get $100,000. So things could change quite a bit. And again, there'll be some more town hall meetings to talk about misnomers and, are we going to be another Hartsville Airport? The only people that tells you we're going to be another Hartsville Airport is Hartsville Airport because they don't want us in competition. We don't plan to be in competition. But to me, it's like we're going to build a Little League baseball field beside the new Braves Stadium, and we're going to knock them out of it. It's just a few flights a weekend to vacation spots, and it helps generate a partner out there then that you can bring in a company like Dassault and other airlines that would be interested in coming in to do fixed wing and that type of thing. And then, as I told Robert, I've already received a draft on the 404 Reservoir. And I got it, and I wanted to sign it. And there were like 6 or 7 people holding me back. You can't do this. It's got some language in there that we don't like. And the last thing we want to do is have any kind of hold up where the Corps would have an advantage over us to stop projects. The wording in the permit had us where there's 5 parts of this project. One is the intake in the Etowah. And the reason the intake's in the Etowah is we call that throwaway water. When they generate power from Lake Allatoona, that water just goes downstream. We have to capture as much as we can at one time. Richland Creek will not fill our reservoir, but we can keep it capped off and filled with this water that comes out of the Etowah River. Well, in the way the terminology was written, in the 5 projects, it's the intake in the Etowah, it's the pipeline to the reservoir, it's the reservoir itself with the building of the lake and the dam, and then it is the plant that will produce the water, and then there's the distribution system. Right now, because we buy our water from Cobb Marietta, there is a east-west distribution system. And we've got to build a north-south distribution system. So in the wording of the draft, it said if there's a problem at the intake, all work stops. I couldn't have that because we're simultaneously doing all these projects at one time, and why would what we're doing at the dam or doing in the distribution system have anything to do with what we're doing there? So we had to work on, and we got them to agree to the language we were looking for. The State Environmental Protection Division, EPD, Judd Turner has helped us work on this permit religiously, and actually met with the Corps and told them the demand is here. Well, there's several things you do. Number one is you have to have a reason that you need to build the reservoir. A lot of Hall County and different places are building for the future. We're building for right now. And the reason we're building for right now is Glenn Page, the general manager of Cobb Marietta Water, where all of our water is purchased, wrote me a letter about, it's now going on 2 years ago, and he said, start pursuing the Richland Creek Reservoir as hard as you can, because we can no longer guarantee you water. And since then, we have had to, I serve on the Cobb Marietta Water Board. They got us a spot on there because we actually are the second largest user in Cobb Marietta, second only to Cobb. And of course, you're looking at a county that's got 750,000 people, and we're at about 155,000 or better. And but we're the second largest user. Marietta's below us, Smyrna's below us, and so it makes quite an impact. I'm the vice chair and head of finance, and I started playing with them. After we received this letter, we really went after the permit, because it's like you can have all the contracts in the world, and we have one through 2032. But it says in there, we can no longer guarantee you water. So Ralph Tellis is one of the best in the nation for programming and forecasting, and they told us, if you build a reservoir, you're going to have close to $150 million in a reservoir project. That's the plant and everything. If you continue to buy water from Cobb Marietta and you continue to get the increases that we have to pass along in there to keep the CIP going, the capital improvement plan, because there's some of their pipes that are 50 years old. So if you keep that plan going, you've got to have some rate hikes. And if you continue on this course, you'll have exactly the same amount of money in 25 years in Richland Creek as building the reservoir as you would pay in Cobb Marietta, and you still are buying water from them. There's a point where in year 17, 18, where the prices start coming down because you've recaptured your investment costs, and so you start paying less for water in that period of time, but initially you'll pay more. But it is an enterprise system. It won't make your taxes go up. But if you're a water customer, you will pay higher rates for a period of time in order to build the Richland Creek. But I think, our grandchildren will be the ones that will probably capitalize on this the very, very best. So that's what we're working on. The 404 permit should be within a day or so coming back to me with the corrections. I'll be calling the governor. He has given us $15 million that we never have to repay out of the water program from the state. They see the advantage to Northwest Georgia for this reservoir. Governor Deal, when he ran for office, I asked him a lot of reservoir questions, and he had planned on building 12. And he will probably get to see one being begun during his term. So environmental issues, we had to study the Indiana bat. There's all types of jokes I can make about that, but again, it's crazy how we have to study some of the stuff that just absolutely doesn't make sense. And they say the Cherokee darter is extinct, but it's growing in every string we've got. So a lot of things that you have to deal with, and it's hard to understand as a businessman. I just like to go build it, and that part's tough. But be willing to take questions if anybody's got any questions. That kind of gives you in a nutshell a little bit about what we're doing and different phases of things that's happening. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you, Robert. This is a great honor to be here, and we're going to keep Paulding moving in the right direction.
Thank you, David. If I got another announcement sheet, you take my announcement sheet?
No.
That's your name. All right, Georgia Classic Rides Car Cruise is this Saturday, September 20th.